Let's get this stupid viral laundry done while I continue on with that transparency thing that I was talking about yesterday. The past few months, I feel like I've been really holding back on what makes us relatable. And honestly, it's not even because I'm worried about the opinions of the silver spoon crowd. It's more because I'm worried about the influence of what their stupid-ass opinions have on my life.
Stephanie Jenkins is stirring the pot again, and this time her frustration is aimed directly at the people she believes reported her to government authorities. In her latest TikTok rant, she promised a new level of transparency, a buzzword she often uses when she's about to launch into a defensive tirade. True to form, what followed wasn't clarity, but another round of vague grievances, emotional manipulation, and subtle blame games. She claimed that she had been holding something back, something deeply personal that would supposedly help people understand her better. She implied it would be a raw and real confession, something that would connect her with her audience on a human level. But when the moment came, it turned out to be nothing but recycled drama, complaints about being misunderstood, about being unfairly targeted, and about how no one really gets her struggle. Instead of revealing anything new or meaningful, she circled back to the same narrative, one that paints her as the misunderstood underdog fighting against a world that just doesn't want to see her succeed. Her attempt at relatability didn't land. Instead, it left many viewers confused and increasingly skeptical. She wants to be seen as just another struggling mother, but that image starts to crumble under scrutiny. Most struggling parents aren't filming themselves every day from a temporary shelter or motel room. They're not depending on TikTok donations and live stream gifts to survive while refusing to look for actual work. They're not making a spectacle of their children's difficult lives. It's not about shaming her for needing help. It's about questioning why that help seems to be treated like content instead of a temporary step towards stability. To make matters worse, in the same video, Stephanie's partner Drew made a shadowy appearance in the background. He was barely visible, hidden beneath layers of clothing, sunglasses, and what looked like a towel or blanket draped over his head. It didn't look like someone stepping into a frame casually. It looked like someone actively avoiding being recognized. Given ongoing rumors that Drew may be facing legal trouble or has a warrant out, it sent a clear message to viewers: there's more going on behind the scenes than Stephanie's willing to admit. This moment, meant to showcase honesty and vulnerability, instead added more fuel to the fire. Viewers weren't reassured. They were alarmed. Her transparent moment backfired spectacularly, and instead of building empathy, it raised new questions about her judgment, about her living conditions, and about the safety and well-being of her children. Stephanie's frustration isn't just with online criticism, it's with the real-world consequences of what she posts. She's angry that viewers are reporting her videos to agencies like Child Protective Services. She's upset that government workers are taking those reports seriously. But what she doesn't acknowledge, or refuses to, is that these concerns aren't coming from trolls. They're coming from viewers who are watching her day after day, witnessing patterns of potential neglect and instability. She insists that it's all just hate, driven by people with perfect lives, who can't relate to her struggle. She refers to them mockingly as the silver spoon crowd, suggesting they're privileged and out of touch.
It's not because I'm worried about the opinions of the silver spoon crowd. It's more because I'm worried about the influence of what their stupid-ass opinions have on my life. I mean, it's a definite riddle to me, but for whatever reason, the government agencies like to take these whack jobs opinions and actually take the time to look into it. Like, what does an online troll's opinion really have to do with anyone's life? I get that people post their lives and then people can have whatever opinion they really want, but it's the fact that these opinions have so much say, when really all it is an opinion. For instance, why should there be anything but grief and condolences to a family who just recently lost a child? Should anyone's online opinion about any kind of speculations of what went on for that loss have any kind of say in the matter? One and only point that should matter in this case is that somebody lost their baby. And like I was saying, it hasn't necessarily been the opinions that have got to me. It's been the fact that these opinions have had some kind of say on my life. People knocking on my door that shouldn't be knocking on my door, popping into my DM that don't belong up in there. Best believe, lady, all I'm gonna do is sit there and delete that. I got no time for your drama. Honestly.
And she said that she's been holding back on posting content because of the silver spoon crowd. Now, in translation, that means the people who work for the things that they want. And they're at the laundromat, and she's explaining how government agencies won't help them because of social media and what people are saying. Mind you, they are basically full-time content creators at this point. I mean, they're both not working. Why do they need government assistance? And I don't know if y'all peeped, but Drew just got brand new tires on his car. Tires are not cheap. And then she goes on another rant about unaesthetic content and this, that, and the third. So basically, zero accountability for anything, zero explanation as to why they still have not moved into a home. And of course, she doesn't say anything about Deshaun or Desiree or Drew or anything like that. I don't know if Stephanie has ever worked a job in her life. It doesn't seem that way because, like, how do you not grasp the fact that people, like, literally have to work? Like, people who don't do TikTok have to work to maintain their well-being, like their children's well-being, their life, their bills, things that they want. They have to work for that.
But in reality, many of the people criticizing her are hardworking parents themselves, people who know what it means to juggle jobs, bills, and kids without turning it into a TikTok saga. Stephanie also touched on how people judge her based on her appearance, claiming that viewers assume she's using substances just because she looks tired or wears oversized clothes. And sure, on a surface level, she's right, people shouldn't jump to conclusions based on looks alone. But again, that's not what's really happening. The concern isn't about her messy hair or oversized hoodie, it's about her behavior. The way she frequently skips over basic responsibilities, the way she overshares personal details while seemingly ignoring her children's needs, and the way she treats her chaotic situation as content instead of something to fix, those are the real issues viewers are responding to. Over time, Stephanie has built a pattern, one that plays out across her live streams and videos. She creates content out of dysfunction, out of messy rooms, unstable housing, and her kids' visible discomfort. And every time someone raises a red flag, she plays the victim, insisting she's just being picked on. But people aren't reacting to isolated incidents, they're reacting to a steady stream of worrying behavior that she herself puts online for millions to see. She wants sympathy. She wants validation. But what she really needs, what her children need, is stability. Safety. Structure. Instead, the only constant is the camera, the same camera she uses to vent, to cry, to accuse, and to chase engagement. She frames herself as a mom doing her best. But what does that best really look like? Because if your best is avoiding work, dodging accountability, and using your children's pain to fuel your TikTok popularity, then people have every right to be concerned. That's not struggle, that's exploitation with a filter over it. Stephanie Jenkins has been pushing her narrative of being a struggling mom, but more and more people are starting to see through the facade. Struggle, for most parents, doesn't look like lounging in a motel room with your partner gaming on a PS5 in the background. It looks like working 2 jobs, waking up at dawn to get kids to school, skipping meals, and lying awake at night wondering how to make rent or afford groceries the next day. That's real stress. That's real sacrifice. What Stephanie is doing feels more like avoiding responsibility, not grinding through hardship. In her world, filming herself folding a few clothes or cooking a simple meal is enough to earn praise and sympathy. She treats basic parenting tasks, things every parent has to do, as if they're monumental achievements. And yes, parenting is hard. Yes, those tasks matter, but they don't automatically make you exceptional. They're part of the job, not proof of heroic struggle. The fact that she points to those everyday chores as evidence of how hard she has it just shows how out of touch she is with the realities many parents face daily. Where other mothers are clocking in long hours, skipping self-care, and pushing through exhaustion just to keep their kids fed and safe, Stephanie turns her life into content. Her version of a hardship is carefully edited for engagement.
I'm not because I'm worried about the opinions of the silver spoon crowd. It's more because I'm worried about the influence of what their stupid ass opinions have on my life. I mean, it's a definite riddle to me, but for whatever reason, the government agencies like to take these whack jobs opinions and actually take the time to look into it. Like, what does an online troll's opinion really have to do with anyone's life? I get that people post their lives and then people can have whatever opinion they really want, but it's the fact that these opinions have so much say when really all it is an opinion. For instance, why should there be anything but grief and condolences to a family who just recently lost a child? Should anyone's online opinion about any kind of speculations of what went on for that loss have any kind of say in the matter? One and only point that should matter in this case is that somebody lost their baby. Now, like I was saying, it hasn't necessarily been the opinions that have got to me. It's been the fact that these opinions have had some kind of say on my life. People knocking on my door that shouldn't be knocking on my door. Exes popping into my DM that don't belong up in there. Best believe, lady, all I'm gonna do is sit there and delete that. I got no time for your drama. Most about letting any of this get to me is the fact that it hasn't shown any kind of resilience. Because honestly, the whole reason I started this account was to try to give a voice to those people who feel like they can't post because their life is just not aesthetic enough yet. They're scared to post because they feel like people are going to mention, hey, you have way too many children for how broke you are. Or, hey, you like age 10 years older than you definitely should look. The same people that'll make that comment will hop onto an aesthetic account with a mama popping out baby number 6. And she's in her 40s, but hey, because her life's been a little bit more convenient, hasn't been as much struggle, her body doesn't have the same wear and tear. Sometimes that's what it is. It's wear and tear. It's not no freaking heavy substance use. It's not like I can judge you completely. I used to be this naive too. I used to look at homeless people or people who were on the street. My instant assumption was to judge them and just assume they were going to be a nasty person, personality and all. And I'll tell you something, I was completely wrong to assume all that about people. When it came down to it, people who have been through the most struggle have been some of the kindest people I've ever met.
She constantly complains about being judged, but takes no real accountability for the choices she keeps making. She and Drew aren't working. They stay in a motel, supported by food stamps, living rent-free in a shelter, and still manage to generate income from TikTok and other platforms. Yet somehow, they see themselves as victims of a system they've chosen not to rise above. And then she throws around the term silver spoon crowd, like it's an insult. But who is she really talking about? The people who get up every day, go to work, stretch their paychecks, and make sacrifices to give their kids better lives? The ones who grew up with nothing, came from foster care, shelters, broken homes, and still pushed forward anyway? Many of them didn't have the support Stephanie did. They had no one to rely on and still managed to build something better. That's not privilege, it's perseverance. And it's insulting when she dismisses them as if they had it easy. Stephanie had chances most struggling mothers could only dream of. Her mother stepped in with financial help when she needed it and even offered to pay for her divorce, a process that's emotionally and financially devastating for many. That kind of support can be life-changing, yet she acts like she's been abandoned. She spins this narrative of being completely alone, but it just isn't true. Her story isn't about being left behind. It's about wasting opportunities. And that's the most frustrating part. While other moms are scraping by, doing everything they can to protect and provide for their children without a single helping hand, Stephanie was handed support, financial, emotional, and practical. She had doors opened for her and instead chose to sit behind them, scrolling TikTok and complaining about how unfair life is. She gets food stamps, free shelter, and income from both TikTok and Facebook. That's more support than most people in her position will ever receive. But when you look at how she uses that help, it's disheartening. She's spent money on trendy items like an air fryer, not because it was needed, but because it was fashionable. She's bought expensive tires for a car that could barely seat her family safely, instead of investing in long-term stability. And then there's the constant flow of PlayStation games for Drew, a grown man who doesn't contribute but always has time to play. Meanwhile, her children are visibly neglected. Viewers have seen them wearing clothes that don't fit, that are mismatched and worn out. They've listened to them repeatedly ask to go to Urban Air, a simple, affordable recreational spot, for over a year. There's never money for that. No effort to save for it. But there's always money for gadgets, games, and indulgences. She could have used her platform and support to build something real. She could have been applying for housing, saving for a place, even if it meant cutting back and making tough choices. That's what struggling parents do, they fight for stability, even when it's hard. But Stephanie seems more committed to portraying hardship than overcoming it, and that's not a struggle. That's a choice. With bills like rent, utilities, and everyday expenses hanging over her head, you'd think Stephanie would make more careful choices with her money. But instead, she seems to prioritize instant gratification, whether it's splurging on gadgets, video games, or car upgrades.
Something I was completely wrong to assume all that about people. When it came down to it, people who have been through the most struggle have been some of the kindest people I've ever met. A young homeless man who's going outside the dumpster and looking in through the food and grabbing the goldfish half-eaten out the dumpster. All he wants is a hot meal, and if you give it to him, he's going to be way more grateful than you give credit. I guess the point I'm trying to get at here is when you judge a person off their aesthetic and the way they appear, you're missing out on a chance of really getting to know some kind people, some true down-to-earth people that won't judge you for anything because we've already been through it all ourselves. But going forward, I'm not going to hold back what I'm posting for fear of what the frick your opinions are going to do to my life. Keep on coming at me. I'm going to keep posting and showing up for the people who are supporting and watching our journey for the growth. God, I apologize for losing sight of the vision you gave me. I pray for daily strength and motivation going forward. I thank you for every bit of growth you've given me so far. I really appreciate y'all watching. Thank you. I'm not calling because I'm worried about the opinions of the silver spoon crowd. It's more because I'm worried about the influence of what their stupid ass opinions have on my life. I mean, it's a definite riddle to me, but for whatever reason, the government agencies like to take these whack jobs opinions and actually take the time to look into it. Like, what does an online troll's opinion really have to do with anyone's life? I get that that people post their lives and then people can have whatever opinion they really want. But it's the fact that these opinions have so much say, when really all it is an opinion. For instance, why should there be anything but grief and condolences to a family who just recently lost a child? Should anyone's online opinion about any kind of speculations of what went on for that loss have any kind of say in the matter? One and only point that should matter in this case is that somebody lost their baby. And like I was saying, it hasn't necessarily been the opinions that have got to me. It's been the fact that these opinions have had some kind of say on my life. People knocking on my door that shouldn't be knocking on my door. It's like popping into my DM that don't belong up in there. Best believe, lady, all I'm gonna do is sit there and delete that. I got no time for your drama.
These aren't investments for her family's future. They're just indulgences that come at the expense of her kids' basic needs and emotional health. Stephanie complains when Child Protective Services steps in, but what else could she expect? She's not just sharing snapshots of her life, she's live streaming nearly every moment, giving the world an unfiltered look into her chaotic existence. That includes cluttered living spaces, children who appear emotionally neglected, and routines that show little sign of growth or stability. The disorder is not just physical, but emotional and mental, visible in how she deals with problems, the conversations she has around her children, and the total lack of structure in her home. This isn't just a one-off clip taken out of context. It's a recurring pattern, seen in countless hours of content that reveal the same troubling behaviors. So no, this isn't some internet misunderstanding or drama, it's the inevitable outcome of exposing dysfunction without making any effort to improve. Concerned viewers weren't just trolling, they witnessed a family falling apart and felt compelled to report it because the people living it weren't doing enough to help themselves. Stephanie isn't stuck with no options. She has access to a phone, the internet, a platform, and followers who provide her with income. She's not living on the edge of survival, she's comfortably stuck, choosing not to change her situation. That's what frustrates people who know what real struggle looks like. She could be saving money, making plans, improving her home, or working toward stability, but she chooses not to. Instead, she shifts blame to the system, to her viewers, even labeling anyone expecting responsibility as part of the silver spoon crowd. It's always someone else's fault. Excuses and deflections let her avoid accountability. Even her friends seem to support this victim narrative, talking about how hard her life has been, how worn out she is. Sure, she's had rough patches, but that doesn't justify the choices she's making now. Critics aren't attacking her appearance, they're criticizing her inaction. They ask how, with all her resources and time, she's still stuck in the same place. Why does she keep playing the victim instead of stepping up? It's not about who Stephanie is, it's about what she isn't doing, especially when so many others in worse conditions manage to keep moving forward. Maybe Stephanie is in denial, trying to rewrite the story to avoid guilt. Or maybe she's painfully aware of how bad things look and hides behind performative vulnerability. Either way, she's trapped in a cycle of excuses, blame, and a carefully curated image meant to elicit sympathy without responsibility. The real question now is not if she's delusional, it's whether she even wants to change. The resources are there and the money, the platform, the chance, but until she faces reality and puts in real effort, nothing will improve. What's your take? Should Stephanie still get government support? Is there hope she'll finally put her kids first? Or has she chosen this lifestyle for good? Share your thoughts below, and if you stuck around for this, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next update, because with Stephanie Jenkins, there's always more drama just around the corner.